Do these criminals actually think? No, of course they don't. Let's start with number 6, the high life. A major crime ring operating in New York City made headlines when it was busted by federal authorities. The ring consisted of 6 individuals: Victor Agosto, Perfecto Deleon, Luis Lopez, Andres Reyes, Nestor Rivera, and Peter Vasquez. These individuals were accused of running a large-scale operation with connections to a Mexican cartel. The bust revealed an impressive amount of illegal activities. Over $2 million worth of cars and contraband were seized, including 12 kilograms of stuff valued at $900,000. The luxurious lifestyle of the dealers was on full display, with a fleet of high-end vehicles, including a Lamborghini Huracan, Rolls-Royce Ghost, Bentley, Audi R8 Spider, Mercedes CLS 63, Mercedes S550, Range Rover Sport, and BMW M4. Not only did these guys indulge in lavish cars, but they also spent their money on extravagant gifts for their families. The items seized included a $3,000 Versace stroller, Rolex watches, Chanel handbags, Versace dresses, gold jewelry, and diamond-encrusted rings. Their social media accounts were filled with posts flaunting their opulent lifestyle, which ultimately led to their downfall. And they didn't stop at material possessions. They also treated themselves to luxurious vacations. They rented waterfront properties in Miami and documented their lavish getaways on Instagram, further exposing their illegal activities to law enforcement. To protect their illicit business, one of the defendants relied on a, let's call them not-so-nice street gang known as the Young Gunners, or YGs, based in Bushwick, Brooklyn. This gang provided protection for their trafficking operation. The individuals involved in this illegal substances criminal ring were also found to have connections to Mexican cartels, according to federal authorities. Despite their attempts to live a glamorous lifestyle, they failed to establish legitimate businesses to launder their ill-gotten gains. As a result of their actions, the defendants face serious charges and potentially lengthy prison sentences. If convicted, they would face a minimum of 10 years to life behind bars for their involvement in trafficking and related crimes. And really, a Versace stroller? Number 5. The Interview. Eric Rivers, a bank robbery suspect in Gwinnett County, Georgia, found himself in a comically ironic situation during his alleged crime spree. After robbing a Chase Bank in Lawrenceville, Georgia, Rivers made the mistake of appearing in an on-camera interview with a local news station for an unrelated story about public transit. Look, the man has opinions, okay? Unbeknownst to the reporter, Rivers was casing another bank in the area when he agreed to the interview. As he removed his hat and do-rag, which he allegedly wore during the robberies, a bank manager observed him walking towards the news van after leaving the building. Lawrenceville police, who were investigating the reported robberies, followed up on the lead provided by the bank manager and obtained Rivers' name from the news station. The incident left law enforcement authorities astounded by Rivers' apparent lack of brains. Lawrenceville police detective Scott Pendergrass believed that Rivers was caught off guard and surprised by the reporter's interview. The department took the opportunity to offer advice to would-be criminals on their Facebook page, advising against agreeing to an interview with a news crew while casing a bank for an additional robbery. It was alleged that Rivers attempted a total of 5 bank robberies, but was only successful in 2. Following his ill-fated interview, Rivers was arrested and was expected to face charges related to the bank robberies. It's worth noting that we couldn't find specific information on the outcome of Eric Rivers' case, such as arrest records or sentencing details. If you have any additional information, please let us know in the comments. And what were his thoughts on public transportation? His opinions mattered enough that he got arrested for them, so what did he say? Number 4. The Dirty Dancer. Yanelyn Rivera Bosa, an exotic dancer from Miami, found herself in big trouble after allegedly engaging in a cunning scheme to defraud a patron of the arts. According to police reports, Yanelyn and several other women performed dances for the victim in a private VIP room at their club. The dancers took advantage of his intoxicated state by continuously pouring drinks down his throat until he was unable to stand. While her colleagues distracted the victim with their interpretive dance moves, we're sure they were very artistic, Yanelyn seized the the opportunity to swipe the man's cell phone and wallet. As the victim left the club, he realized some of his belongings were missing and decided to check his accounts. To his shock, he discovered unauthorized PayPal withdrawals totaling $62,345, along with unfamiliar charges on his Chase, Wells Fargo, and American Express cards. The evidence pointed to Yanlin, who actually stored her number in his phone to transfer payments to herself, probably to keep in contact with him. They had a real connection, you know? Upon contacting the police, she initially claimed that the victim had authorized the transactions. However, investigators grew skeptical when they found text messages on her phone that she sent to her husband and one of her friends complaining about how he canceled one of her PayPal transfers. The nerve of this guy, right? In addition to the fraud, police found evidence on Yanlin's phone indicating her involvement in the sale of illegal growth hormones and steroids. The evidence pointed to her role as a supplier, offering performance-enhancing substances to clients directly from the Interpretive Dance Club. As a result of the incriminating evidence and testimonies, Yanlin was arrested and is now facing multiple charges related to fraud and her dealing. What kind of world do we live in where you can no longer trust interpretive dancers when they're intentionally getting you plastered? Number 3. The Smart Rapper. Aspiring rapper Ladarian Chandler was arrested for connection with a shooting of John McGee in Lakeland, Florida. The incident occurred following an argument between Chandler and McGee in the street. McGee, known as Bang Bang, probably because he was always knocking too hard on doors, so the name makes sense if you know him, and was a reputed gang member with a history of misconduct. Although he was released from prison just 2 months prior to the incident, his confrontation with Chandler turned fatal when he was attacked from behind with a firearm. Despite being taken to the hospital, McGee's refusal to take the prescribed medication for his injuries, which ultimately led to his passing 24 days later, which is both stupid and sad. During his recovery, authorities attempted to speak with McGee about the incident, but he refused to cooperate. It became apparent that McGee intended to seek his own revenge against the opposing gang member involved in the incident, as he planned to handle the matter himself rather than having the individual arrested. While the investigation into McGee's attack continued, Chandler, in a separate incident, pulled a weapon on someone else just a few streets away from where the initial incident took place. Fortunately, the victim survived, and Chandler was arrested and tossed in jail. Adding a disturbing twist to the case, Chandler made a rap video in which he not only made references to the attack on McGee, but also admitted to attacking him from behind. Chandler's skills were dumped by the police, who probably just aren't fans of rap, and the video showcased Chandler's reckless attitude and complete disregard for the consequences of his actions. Chandler's criminal history is extensive, having been arrested 7 times for felonies and 5 times for misdemeanors since the age of 11. His past convictions include charges of fleeing to elude, grand theft of a motor vehicle, and vehicle burglary. At the time of the attack, Chandler was on juvenile probation. Law enforcement authorities are determined to bring Chandler to justice, with the Polk County Sheriff's Office actively seeking the gun used. Well, this guy obviously has more stuff to rap about in the future. Number 2. The Festival Fugitive. Ryan McTee, or simply known as the Festival Fugitive, was captured after evading law enforcement for over a year. His escapade began after violating the terms of his parole, which led to a nationwide manhunt. McTee had been released on parole midway through a 6-year sentence for robbery, a crime that tragically resulted in the passing of a shopkeeper, although he wasn't the one directly involved in the attack. During his time on the run, McTee brazenly flaunted his freedom by attending music festivals and posting pictures on social media. His participation in various music festivals like Ibiza, Carnival, and Creamfields became a taunt to the police, who were actively seeking his apprehension. Despite his parole violations, McTee maintained his innocence in committing any additional crimes. He expressed frustration at being categorized alongside actual criminals, claiming he hadn't committed any new offenses. McTee's reign as the Festival Fugitive came to an abrupt end when armed police arrested him at gunpoint in Coventry. The arrest followed extensive surveillance, and the authorities swiftly apprehended him at an address in Holbrooks. In addition to the parole violation, McTee was also detained on suspicion of cultivating some illicit plants, further complicating his legal situation. It's worth noting that McTee, although involved in the robbery, wasn't directly responsible for the attack that resulted in the shopkeeper's unfortunate passing. Nonetheless, he was held accountable for his role in the crime. With his capture, McTee now faced not only the consequences of his parole violations, but also the additional charges related to the suspected cultivation of the illegal plants. He also bragged about being called sweaty, which is a really weird thing to be proud of. If you're enjoying this video, be sure to stay tuned right here for our past release on more dumb criminals. Number 1. The Bankers. Senna Mascar, a former bank manager, found herself leading a double life, fueled by a £24,000-a-month empire. Mascar abandoned her career in corporate banking with the Royal Bank of Scotland and NatWest at the age of 37 to run the Sniper dealer line alongside her husband, Rashid Hussain. Their illicit activities flooded the streets of Rockdale with party powder and even a harder contraband, enabling them to live a luxurious lifestyle. Mascar's previous job as a bank manager added an unexpected twist to her involvement. During a police raid on their £3.1 million apartment, the officers discovered incriminating evidence included digital scales, packaging materials, and debt lists. The couple had used the proceeds from the illegal empire to fund a designer lifestyle, purchasing expensive Rolex watches, designer clothes worth nearly £18,000, and even 2 pedigree cats for £3,000. They lived lavishly, spending their ill-gotten gains without restraint. Adding to their downfall was Hussein's online bragging about his income. Voice notes recovered by the police revealed him proudly boasting about his financial success. A video showed him showing off stacks of cash, claiming that the money had made him. Their social media presence, coupled with their extravagant spending, made it all too easy for law enforcement to connect their activities to their illicit profits. Even after being bailed out, Mascar continued to run the operation from her hometown of Bury. A second raid at her residence uncovered £15,000 in cash, large quantities of illegal substances, and a kilogram of a controlled substance which was mixed with the other substances to increase volume. Accounting notes indicated substantial cash flow from their criminal activities. During questioning, Mascar claimed not to know how her husband obtained his money, suggesting that she had been misled, like anyone was going to fall for that. However, her attempts to distance herself from the illegal activities were in vain, as the evidence against her was overwhelming. The couple's lack of discretion and failure to launder their illicit funds through legitimate businesses was probably a big part of their downfall. Their online presence and extravagant lifestyle were direct indicators of their criminal activities, making it easy for authorities to connect the dots. In the end, Mascar pleaded guilty and got 3 years and 4 months in prison. You'd think a bank manager would know a little bit better how to hide all of their illegal finances, right? Stupid. He decided to rip off Stormy Daniels, and she applied for welfare even though her husband's a professional athlete. Let's get right into the people who had no reason to run a scam. Number 4. Ms. Greedy. Jade Robinson collected fraudulent welfare payments from a Commonwealth entity while claiming to be a single mom while she was married to her rugby player husband, who earned $160,000 a year. She collected the payments from Centrelink, an assistance program for the Australian government that pays out benefits to retirees, the unemployed, families, carers, parents, people with disabilities, and other disadvantaged people. Despite not being really disadvantaged in any real sense of the word, Jade collected almost $50,000 in payments from the entity. And she did this despite being happily married to David Fifta, a rugby player who earned enough money for her to lead a comfortable lifestyle. The couple actually married in 2014, but Jade started collecting the payments in 2011 and didn't stop until 2016. Jade got herself into this pickle in 2011 when she clicked a box in a Centrelink form that said she was a single mom with 2 young boys who never married or lived with a partner. But at the time she clicked that, she was already in a relationship with her husband, and they even appeared on the NRL footy show to talk about their relationship. So why did Jade, a seemingly comfortable woman, carry out this scam? What was in it for her? Well, she said that she wanted the money to buy designers and a new car so that she could measure up to the wives of other rugby stars. In a way, jealousy was the reason why she continued with the scam even after getting married. She simply felt the need to keep up with the social circle she found herself in, and that led her to continue to accept those payments. In court, she pled guilty to the crime of defrauding Centrelink $48,507.52 in single-parent payments. Interestingly, despite being convicted of the crime, Jade never spent a night in prison. She was sentenced to 8 months of home detention instead. A psychological report said that she was immature and had an inability to extract herself from situations she had put herself in. Maybe that was why she carried on the scam for so long. Number 3. Pokey's Junkie. Sandra Balf defrauded a car company of almost $2 million while working as an accountant there for 20 years. According to her defense attorney, Balf didn't use this money to live a luxurious lifestyle. Instead, she spent most of it on pokies, which is the Australian term for gambling slots. She carried out the scam for over 8 years and got away with it for so long because she never took lump amounts. Sometimes she only took out as little as $100 from the company's account. Sandra was pretty clever with fraud too, as she made sure she labeled the payments into her account with generic names so that no one would notice. Since she had worked at the company for a long time, she was really conversant with their financial systems, so she knew everything she needed to do to avoid detection. For example, she never made the transfers using her own login information. She always generated that of random employees and then used her details to verify the transaction. Since she was a trusted employee, no one really suspected her, and she was able to continue making those fraudulent transactions for around 8 years. But she couldn't get away with her theft forever. One day, a customer complained that they hadn't received an insurance product from the car company. This launched an internal investigation that found that Sandra had sent the money to her own account. And with this, her years of fraud blew apart. The car company promptly discovered that Sandra had scammed them for around $1.89 million from 2010 to 2018. She was immediately arrested and charged to court. In court, her attorney argued that she didn't steal because of greed, but because of need. He said her addiction to gambling was the reason why she stole, and she was merely a victim of this horrid addiction. The prosecution argued that Sandra had established history of fraud because she had been once convicted of defrauding another employee of $30,000 in an unrelated case. Her lawyer said that the conviction was also a result of need, as she had wanted to pay off her mortgage when her husband lost his job, and that the money was now repaid. While the judge was sympathetic to Sandra, he said that her actions were a significant breach of trust. As a result, he sentenced her to 8 years in jail. But there's some reprise for Sandra Balf. She'll be eligible for parole in 2024, just 6 years into her sentence. Number 2. Still rich. Multimillionaire Eli Ttuk used investor money from his real estate scam to pay for his divorce from his supermodel wife. Eli got married to his wife back in 1998. However, they got divorced in 2011, and his wife, Daniela Seaman, got married to footballer Cesc Fabregas after leaving him. As part of the divorce settlement, the court ordered Eli to pay his wife £1.4 million. Unfortunately, Eli couldn't put that cash up, and this led to the sale of a £5.5 million property in London to a company that Fabregas had an interest in. So Eli was basically forced to sell his family house to his ex-wife and her husband to afford their divorce settlement. Outside of paying the settlement to his ex-wife, Eli also had other bills that needed paying. For example, he had lawyer fees that were very expensive. But instead of finding legal means to raise this money, Eli did the unthinkable. He decided to get it through fraud. During the period that Eli was dealing with divorce proceedings, he met Adrian Knoll and his father Frank Knoll. They came from a wealthy Swiss family and were interested in investing in a joint venture with Eli. The business proposition was simple. They would bridge finance the purchase of a property and its renovation and sell it for a profit. However, instead of using the funds provided by the Knolls to finance the purchase and renovation of the apartment, Eli used it for something else. First, he paid off a huge chunk of his legal fees from his divorce. That alone took about £200,000. Next, he bought a £28,000 Porsche and then rented a £21,000 a month prop. He also spent about £20,000 on private school fees. While he was doing all of this, he was telling the Knolls a tall tale about the state of their property. He showed them multiple receipts and invoices about work going on in the apartment and even collected more money from them. He told them that he had obtained a standard mortgage for the property when he had obtained a bridging finance that ran up to £61,000 per month on interest payments. By the time all was said and done, Avenatti had collected over £2 million from them. He would have collected more if Adrian Knoll hadn't noticed the property looked like a shell when he inspected it a year after continuously paying Eli. The straw that broke the camel's back was when the Knowles discovered that the National Bank of Abu Dhabi was selling the property at auction following a mortgage default. Once they learned of that, they commissioned a private investigation into Eli's business and discovered his lies for what they were. They found that he'd used their investment to fund his luxury lifestyle and was a frequent shopper at Harrods on their dime. Unfortunately for the Knowles, there was very little they could do about their lost investment. The property they paid for was already auctioned, and they had basically lost all of their £2.5 million. During his trial, Eli remained extremely defiant. He told the judge that his family was worth £150 million, therefore implying that he really didn't need to defraud. But the facts of the case disagreed with that argument, and it was proven beyond reasonable doubt that Eli had indeed defrauded the Knowles. In fact, the judge was so disappointed with Eli that he said he could never believe a word that came out of his mouth if it wasn't corroborated with other evidence. Eli, on the other hand, said that his behavior was due to suffering a nervous breakdown because of his divorce. The judge replied that a lot of the acrimony from his divorce was due to his actions, and as such, he should expect no pity, since that couldn't be an excuse for the lies and deception. The judge later convicted Eli and sentenced him to 7 years in jail. After his conviction, he suffered a devastating breakdown that culminated in a real attempt to take his own life. This meant that he missed his sentencing hearing, but was sent to jail all the same. While in jail, he decided to appeal the judgment, claiming that his conviction was unsafe and that 7 years were simply too much. They also argued that the entire trial was an unfair process and that the judge didn't consider his mental health issue, among other things. At the appeal court, the judges rejected his claims and told him that they had no merit and he was to finish serving his sentence. Number 1. Storms. Michael Avenatti attempted to extort Nike and defrauded a slew of his clients. He used the proceeds from those frauds to fund a luxury lifestyle that he certainly could not afford. Avenatti was hired by Stormy Daniels in 2016 to free her from a hush payment she got from Donald Trump in the build-up to the 2016 elections. Daniels alleged that Trump paid her the money so that she could hide the fact that they had an intimate relationship decades earlier. While Avenatti was ultimately unsuccessful in releasing her from the NDA she signed, his defense of her and the sensationalism she brought catapulted him to media fame. Before long, he was a regular commentator on news channels, and people generally wanted to hear him speak. Stormy Daniels herself also became really popular, and as a result, got a book deal. The advance for the book deal was around $800,000, and that was where things got sticky for Avenatti. He hatched a plot to steal around $300,000 from Stormy Daniels by impersonating her. To carry out his plan, he sent a fraudulent letter to her literary agent carrying her signature and, through that letter, asked her agent to transfer her advance to a client trust account he controlled. When Miss Daniels asked him about her advance, he paid her around $500,000 from it and said that the second installment was yet to arrive. Apparently, the advance fee came in at a time when Avenatti's law firm wasn't doing very well for itself and was on the brink of bankruptcy. Avenatti siphoned the money from his client in order to stop this from happening. He also spent the money on personal expenses like plane tickets, hotel rooms, dry cleaning, and monthly payment on a Ferrari. But this isn't the only grand scheme that Avenatti was getting up to. He had an even bigger scam lined up. His next target was Nike. His plan was to extort the shoe company of around $20 million. To start his scam off, Avenatti told Nike that he had evidence that the company's grassroots division had paid athletes to attend certain colleges. This was potentially brand-damaging news, and Nike had every incentive to stop the news from getting out. Avenatti told Nike that if they wanted to stop the news from getting out, they needed to pay him to either conduct an internal investigation or pay him $22.5 million to resolve the potential claims of a youth basketball coach he represented. He added that if they didn't agree to his demands, he would call a press conference and tell the world about Nike's supposed underhand deals with grassroots athletes. It was a classic case of extortion. However, Nike's lawyers weren't falling for the extortion attempt. Instead, they got federal officers involved and launched an investigation into Avenatti's behavior. When the case eventually got to court, Nike said that Avenatti caused a $300 million drop in Nike stock valuation due to one tweet he sent about the entire matter. Nike's lawyers also argued that they were scared that Avenatti would irreparably damage the Nike brand due to his lies. Amazingly, the Nike and Stormy Daniels cases aren't the only examples of Avenatti trying to defraud people. he didn't just lie to Stormy Daniels and Nike. He also lied to other clients, IRS collection agents, creditors, a bankruptcy court, and a bankruptcy trustee. One of the clients he defrauded was a man named Jeffrey Ernest Johnson, who had won a $4 million settlement from the city of Los Angeles, but had only received a fraction of the money through periodic payments that never went past $1,900. The rest of the settlement money was pocketed by Avenatti, and he spent it only funding his lavish lifestyle. In all, Avenatti got around $12 million in settlements for his clients and lied to them about it. He either claimed the settlements were yet to arrive or that he was being paid in installments. In any case, he made sure that his clients never saw their full settlements. He used the proceeds from this fraud to live lavishly and even co-owned a $5 million private jet that was eventually seized by the police. He didn't just use these settlement payments to live lavishly. He also used a part of it to pay for legal expenses and also pay creditors when his law firm filed for bankruptcy. He also paid costs associated with a coffee company that he owned. Outside that, Avenatti was also an avid tax dodger. For a period of 2 years, he withheld taxes from the paychecks of employees at the coffee company he owned. He also didn't pay about $3 million in payroll taxes to the government. To crown it all, he tried to obstruct the government's efforts to collect about $5 million in unpaid payroll taxes by routing the coffee company money to different bank accounts. These were all serious accusations, and if he were convicted of the crimes, he would be looking at about 333 years in prison. So, was he convicted? Did he get those 333 years? Avenatti did not get sentenced to 333 years in jail, but he certainly got some jail time. First, he was sentenced to 2.5 years for the Nike extortion case, and then he got another 4 years for defrauding Stormy Daniels. At his trial, the judge presiding over his case said that his crime against Daniels was made out of desperation and that Avenatti's behavior had been inspired by blind ambition. Despite bragging that the court would exonerate him months before his conviction, Avenatti claimed that he was indeed sorry for his actions and that he had betrayed the trust of his clients, colleagues, and people who believed in him. In a lengthy speech, he took responsibility for his action and said he had brought shame to his family, loved ones, and the legal profession at large. Click to watch one of these next videos. Let us know in the comments section what you think is dumber, rapping about a crime in a song or trying to run from the police.